To me, it's very good news because as far as I can tell, and this is all tea leaf reading, but as far as I can tell, he sees essentially no exit ramp as far as using escalating the war, using nuclear weapons. He's come up against a clear obstacle.
Why do you say that? What in his speech tells you that? What's the form of words?
I mean, the thing that he's been using very belligerent and aggressive rhetoric over the last several months, and he's been trying to make the West and other nations that are in opposition to his war in Ukraine feel as though there's a risk of nuclear war if they continue to support Ukraine, if there is any kind of setback for Russia. This is classic nuclear strategy stuff. And what I'm seeing in this, and again, this is just a very, very quick interpretation of a few words of his, but what I'm seeing is that it's evident that he has run out of options. He doesn't have anything left easily to do. It's clear that the West is not going to simply run away in fear as a result of his nuclear saber rattling. But at the same time, he doesn't have any good options in the actual ground war in Ukraine.
And when you see that,
he's looking for a deal, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, and Campbell, when you see that erstwhile allies like say Armenia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan refuse joint exercises, can we conclude that they have read that into his position too? That he's a man who's cornered.
Yes. And people are jumping off the bus left and right. You saw the recent UN vote. They have these sort of regular UN votes in condemnation of the war in Ukraine, and he's losing support there. He doesn't have a lot left, many cards left to play. So the key to me, as far as what the West does, is you have to give him some kind of golden bridge, right? You have to give him some way to avoid feeling cornered and desperate.
Right, and I'm wondering what that would look like and what kind of role President Erdogan, the Turkish leader, would play given his apparent closeness and the, quotes, very interesting meeting he had with Putin in Kazakhstan.
He's as far as I can tell, he's been doing very good work, and he's indicating to Putin that there are people who are not entirely on the side of sort of the American-led West, who nevertheless want to see some kind of resolution to this process. He needs to feel as though he's got maybe not allies, people who are sympathetic, if for no other reason than psychological reason.
Aha. And what of the Ukrainian position? What do you think they would make of this, given that they're going to be put under a bit of pressure to lean into this and perhaps concede that they're not going to get everything they want from a negotiation?
And that is a tragic but unfortunately true fact. If Ukrainian government insist on a maximal position, that they are going to be making their supporters worried that this is going to, rather than to de-escalate, it's going to escalate. No one wants that. And so they are probably going to have to compromise a little bit on the southeastern parts of Ukraine and Crimea, and we'll probably get back to the status quo ante, which I would regard as a win.
Right. And, okay, so they wouldn't get Crimea, but they would get those annexed lands back. Is that what you're thinking?
I would say that you probably return to a situation as we had before the war began, where you had these southeastern parts of Ukraine, which were heavily ethnically Russian, become sort of indeterminate. It won't be clear exactly who's in control of them. They won't become part of Russia. They will remain a rump part of the Ukraine.
It's going to be difficult for the Ukrainians to accept that, especially as they see themselves in the ascendancy despite the heavy bombardment of Monday and Tuesday. I mean, I read reports of multiple explosions rocking Russian border towns, and I'm sure you're across this as well, including Belgorod in Western Russia. How significant is that? They're getting bolder, aren't they?
They are getting bolder, and if I were in Ukraine, that's what I would be doing as well. We have to look at the larger picture, which is avoiding a superpower conflict and the risk of nuclear war. It will require exceptionally effective diplomacy to achieve that, but to me, that's what has to be done.